I think the name is pronounced Greg. If it's spelled right in here, I've got Greg in Australia. Is it Greg? Did Greg have an I in it, Greg?
Greig.
It certainly does, yeah. You guys
All
can hear
right,
me okay?
wonderful. Yeah.
I know
Do we pronounce
Edvard
it Greg
Grieg,
or
the
Grieg?
composer.
It's not, no, it's not Greig. Greig would be IE, not EI.
Oh, yeah, that's
Mm.
true.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, Greg, you are an Australian who sounds a bit Kiwi-ish, but I'll take your word for it. Who you used to be an atheist, but now you are a theist and think you can present to us a naturalistic explanation of God.
Yeah, I didn't quite say I thought of myself as a theist. I definitely used to subscribe to the idea of being an atheist, and I certainly do not believe in the supernatural or a transcendent divine being, a bearded wizard in the sky. Definitely don't believe any of that stuff.
But to be clear, you're not an atheist anymore, correct?
But I'm not an atheist anymore because I started to.
So what would the alternative to not being an atheist be?
Just agnostic.
Well, but not really. It's not. It's a different proposition.
Mm-hmm.
No, I wouldn't say.
Or you say he doesn't believe in the supernatural.
Yeah.
I definitely don't believe in the supernatural. No, not at all. And I certainly think that the Bible is a story.
Mm-hmm.
Story.
But you have an idea for
Tell us about the God that you...
deity?
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of the reason why I question it is because I question what we consider to be real, whether something is real in objective reality or subjective reality. Because people who believe in God as a supernatural being, transcendent being, they believe it in their subjective reality. It's just as real to them as it is real, objective reality is to a scientist. So
is it?
What I'm doing here is I'm suggesting that you can believe in a naturalistic God that emerged, say, for example, from our evolution, right? Not a supernatural being, but a naturalistic God that exists in our psychology, right? Does that make sense?
Craig, it sounds like you called to... Yeah. Go on, sorry.
We evolutionarily developed the mental capacity to conceive of the idea of deities. That doesn't make them manifest.
No. Not just be able to conceive of deities, but that it was an important part of our evolutionary development.
Sure. That's fine.
Say for example, in nomadic hunter-gatherer tribes, there's animalism, right? We believe in the spirit of the animals and the spirit of the trees and stuff like that, and that can evolve into belief in higher deities.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the evolution of religion is somewhat like what you described, probably, yeah.
Yeah. So if it evolved as a human psychological trait, doesn't that make it real to us? Like, does that not make God a real thing?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because
you can imagine
because objective reality is the only thing that's real.
Real has a meaning,
at the very least.
Right. Real has a meaning.
Yeah.
Truth has a meaning.
I'm questioning that.
And none of to say real to me, I have zero concept of. To tell you the truth, Greg, as you've been talking, I've been like, holy shit, I made it as a joke, and someone called to defend that they believe in magic in a young girl's heart. Because it seems very comparable to that you believe because she believes it, the magic is there. You're not an atheist, but you don't believe in anything supernatural, but you believe that because we have conceptualized them into into our subjective consciousness that they are real to some people, which would mean that lots of things which are not real, we would suddenly categorize as real, making the term pointless. It's sort of like how the word literally now has the definition, alternative definition of figuratively in the dictionary. It's like it destroyed itself, and you are destroying the term real by saying that which is real, objective, verifiable, repeatable, these things that are real,
contains the
you
imaginary.
are destroying the definition.
Even in math,
by saying those things that don't.
Even in math, we divide numbers into real and imaginary, right? They're categorically different. So you're saying that which is imaginary is real. Yeah, like Jimmy said, you're changing the definition of the word real, right, to contain things that are not.
I'm not sure that I'm changing the definition of the word real. You guys have just described objective reality, and I agree with your definition of objective reality.
Then you're being reductive. You're basically going, I'm saying real in this sense, where I'm just going to say God is real with a much more limited thing, as opposed to like, just say the full sentence and don't be confusing and stop trying to make theists feel more included in reality, because it's not that big deal, because in a way it's real to you. You can say stories of God are real because the stories are, those are tangible in some way. They exist in some way in physical reality, but the God itself is not real. Again, anybody, this could mean that anybody with whether it's a religious belief or just a mere delusion, a person who has a delusional schizophrenia, they're seeing things that aren't there, but to them it's real. And if you want to have the conversation about how do you convince that person it's not real, you don't. We have no solipsistic solutions. And unfortunately, if you can break through to them, you try to. But the best we have is you as an individual, Greg. You woke up in this world and you seem to interact with other individuals, and you try to interact with them and verify that some experience is the same and consistent with you as it is for them. And if that is the case, you have the best ability to say that you believe that thing is real. And that's where belief becomes knowledge. That's where the Venn diagram overlaps. But technically, knowledge is a subset of belief. So even all of that, you can still go into this weird, I don't know why you're tiptoeing toward it, this weird solipsistic thing where, but then at the end of the day, I feel like that's where we're headed. How do we know any of this is whatever? It feels like that's the natural progression. And we don't. There's no solution for that. So the best you can do is you either woke up in this reality or you're a part of mine, because I'm experiencing you. And I have no other choice but to act as though you are real and see that which is in common between the two of us and call that real. That's the best any of us can do.
See which we can both interact with. If we can both interact with something, that's firm evidence that's evidence that it is a real thing, right? And the more people that can interact with it, table, whatever, water, anything. But the God that you imagine, that doesn't fall into that category.
Well, the God that I imagine is not the supernatural God that you normally talk to people about. It is a product of our evolution. It is, and I wasn't going, by the way, I wasn't going towards the solipsism argument at all. All I was really here
just
to
felt like that.
Suggest is a discussion. No, I know it sounds like it, but that's not where I was going. I was really.
How's your God materialized? Does it exist yet, external to Homo sapien minds in any way?
No, not at all. That's not exactly that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is,
do you believe in any other type of?
You're defining reality.
Greg.
You're defining reality.
I'm just gonna. Greg, stop. I've done a million of these shows. Yeah. The questions I ask you will be more productive to the conversation to answer than whatever monologue you want to go on. I promise. I don't just jump in with bullshit questions for the fun of it. You have said that you're not an atheist. We're going to now have to identify whether or not you're not an atheist because, like real, you have redefined that phrase, or you actually believe in an external God to just concepts, one that is real by the common definition of real. And that's what I want to know at the moment. Do you believe in a God which exists external to Homo sapiens that if all Homo sapiens died would still be present?
No.
Good. So do you acknowledge that by the common
definition of God?
Do you agree that by the common definition of atheist, a person who lacks a belief in a God or gods, meaning as in a belief in its real existence, that by the common definition, you would meet that definition? However, I won't force you to take on any label you don't want to take. That's your prerogative. But by the common definition, you would at least qualify.
The way you just defined atheism, I would define myself as an atheist, because I definitely do not believe in that, extant, transcendent, supernatural God.
Great.
I definitely do not believe in that.
Great. The question I have then that I think is probably the final question for this God thing that you are, unless Dave has more for you, that you are defending. Let's say you convinced atheists at large and channels like this one and Dave and everyone to start interacting with the term God and real the way that you did, which, by the way, would turn a lot of philosophy and science upside down. But let's say that that happened. One, would it be worth turning science and philosophy upside down? And then two, what utility would we get out of doing such a similar equivocation as you are here?
Okay. I'm not sure I agree with you that it would turn things upside down. I don't think I agree with that.
Then just go to question two.
The value that would come from it, I think the value that it would come from it, your second part of the question, the value that would come from it is more of understanding where people's irrational, what I call would be an irrational belief in a non-existent being, where that comes from an evolutionary psychology perspective, and show a little bit of, how can I put it, give those believers a little bit of a break, because they are human and we have all evolved as humans, right?
You're not making an argument for the existence of a God. You're just explaining why humans believe in God.
I'm not.
That's very different.
No, I'm not making an argument for the existence of an objective God.
Greg,
I'm making an argument. Making an argument for why we have that psychological construct of God.
Got it. Greg, excellent. Here's what I think. I think now that we live in a world where secularism is widely accepted in a lot of places, we should keep engaging the psychology sciences in discovering the answers to those questions and not indulge, quote unquote, give the believers a break. Because I will also remind you that the believers still have the most institutional power in the world. And it's not them who need the break. They are the ones that we are fighting against in America, anyway. For example. Go ahead.
Nobody is campaigning to disallow people from believing whatever they want. There's no danger there, Yeah.
Right.
And they're still the majority.
So, Greg, what terms on the atheist side are you going to change to make the God believers accept us more? Marjorie Taylor Greene calls non-Christians delusional constantly. How are you going to bridge that gap from her?
Yeah.
I would do exactly as you are doing, which is challenge the supernatural nature of God and challenge also, people who are pushing towards theocracy. It is a seriously big problem, and I agree with you there.
Mm-hmm.
Never give those guys a break. That's not what I'm proposing at all here. I just wanted to explore your definition of atheism and whether or not you would, to some degree, accept God as a psychological construct. And it's been a good discussion, and I really appreciate it. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Greg. Look up what's called the equivocation fallacy and read about it, because it's what you're performing, just so you know. Little final tidbit
I'll
for
do
you.
That.
Thanks, man.
Okay, I will do that.
Cheers. Great. Thanks. I guess my confusion
is, believers a break.
Yeah, give the believers a break. They've had a rough couple millennia. Isn't a God by definition supernatural? Or if it's not supernatural, then it's just an imaginary friend, right? He's basically making the case that imaginary friends must be real. No, maybe I wasn't following.
I mean, I can relate to some people who want to use the term God if they, for example, do believe in a simulation theory, and that like if we simulated a universe, we would be the gods of that universe, even though we existed naturally. But I don't believe in simulation theory because I don't think it's been adequately evidenced, despite being read parts of a study at the beginning of the show.
Right. Well,
I don't know.
Simulation theory is like believing in like a simple deistic God. You know what I mean? It's just we're never going to prove or disprove this. It's just
right.
We'll all die not knowing if it was a simulation or not. What are you going to do? You know?
And it doesn't, I think a lot of these, like deism is the same way. It's one of those things where people go, oh, an answer I can grasp the headline of and I feel better. And I'm sitting there going, I don't feel better. Now I want to know who coded the coders, right? Where did the coders come from? I want to know what their world is like. I would have no more any interest in our universe if we proved it wasn't the base reality. I would only care about the realities, which...
Sure. And then, of course, is there's, you know, did you ever see, what is it called? The 13th Floor? Did you see that movie?
No, but I've watched the episode of Futurama.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It probably takes some inspiration. But 13th Floor is really good. It's a very underappreciated movie. I think it's good. So if you guys like that kind of sci-fi stuff, give it a watch. Deals very much with
the reference
what we were just talking about.
The reference to the 13th floor because that's superstition. So, and you're saying it's about simulation theory. You know that like tall buildings often skip the 13th floor.
It's about simulation type stuff, and I, for the life of me, cannot remember why it's called the 13th floor. I haven't seen it in a very long time.
I assume it's a reference to the superstition that on the building skip the 13th floor because it's unlucky to be on the third. I don't. Yeah.
But I don't remember what that has to do with the plot of the movie. It's not really, but it's just that's what the movie's called, and it's really dope, and it has to do with like this kind of simulation stuff that we're talking about. So it's give it a watch.
How does the 13th thing make sense? Skipping the floor doesn't literally make it the 14th floor. It's so
just
dumb.
Gives it it's still the 13th floor. It's just called a different number.
Ghosts can't count. They only knew it was the 13th floor because the tag's all over the place. That's how.
That's true.
Idiots.
That's true.
Whereas I feel like if I saw that button on a panel, it would just annoy me. Like, what goes on that floor? It still exists. It must. If we have enough time, we will get to the other couple of callers. We are weird. And honestly, I don't think we nailed it. I think maybe we were a mistake, but we're here. What are you going to do about it? Thank you for watching that clip. If you enjoyed it, perhaps you should join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
At patreon.com/calltheline.